Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's topic is looking at impulsive borderline personality disorder. Now, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, please click like and please consider subscribing to my channel. But just as a reminder, this video is not a substitute for support from a mental health professional, nor is it a tool to be used to diagnose someone. But when we think of borderline personality, it's a condition that's often associated with fluctuations in moods and behaviours and attitudes and so on. It's part of the cluster B personality group. Now, it's characterised by erratic and unpredictable behaviour. People with borderline personality tend to be very sensitive, so the slightest thing can bring about an intense emotional reaction. And that can be problematic, not just to themselves, but to others as well. Now, I've made a video on borderline personality disorder and the diagnostic criteria if you want to check that out if you think it would be helpful. But like a lot of personality disorders, more often than not we tend to assume that it's like one size fits all. Once the diagnosis is there, everybody's the same. But borderline personality, it's like a lot of other personality disorders. There's like a spectrum. There's many different shades, many different types. And at the time of the making this video, there are 4 recognized types of borderline personality. There is self-destructive borderline, there's petulant borderline, there's quiet borderline, and the topic for today's video, impulsive borderline. So typically, someone with a borderline personality, now they may feel a fluctuating sense of themselves. They may feel a fluctuating sense of security and stability in themselves and in the world around them. Their likes, their dislikes, their opinions, they can change so often that life can sometimes seem very confusing for them. There is also a difficulty in being able to regulate emotions, regulate their feelings. And as a result of this, relationships can often be very unstable. The partner, indeed themselves sometimes, they go from being either put on a pedestal to being vilified. And the common behaviours associated with borderline personality is overly dramatic behaviours, emotional outbursts, there's an intense fear of abandonment, there's mood swings, a lot of anxiety and impulsiveness. And like all the types of borderline personality, people with impulsive borderline can find it difficult to regulate how they feel. There can be a lack of sense of self-worth. And there's a difficulty in being able to self-soothe and to self-nurture. Everything can be processed, if you will, as being personal. Everything becomes personalized and can often come out as anger, resentment, even depression. But personally, out of the 4 different types of borderline personality, I think impulsive borderline can be the most charismatic, and I think there are a lot of similarities between impulsive borderline and histrionic personality disorder. So to explain that, let's look at some of the common characteristics of impulsive borderline. Now, firstly, as the name suggests, there can be a lot of impulsive behaviours. Now, this can involve thrill-seeking behaviours, instant gratification, risk-taking behaviours, doing things without really thinking through or perhaps having any regard for the consequences. Now, these can involve things like, say, impulse spending, gambling, binge drinking, drug misuse. In that moment, to the person with impulsive borderline, in that moment, it seems like it's a great idea. Secondly, there's a lot of attention-seeking behaviour, and this is one of the areas that make it very similar to histrionic personality. Now, this can involve showing off, telling heartbreaking stories, wanting to outdo someone else's story experience, being the funniest person in the room. In short, trying to be the centre of attention. But with that can come quite a bit of manipulation, as they maybe, in order to put themselves as the centre of attention, that can sometimes mean discrediting others. Then there are high levels of energy. This means they can become bored very easily. Now, this might involve being very passionate about a cause, joining a group, a cause of some kind, getting involved, going at it with a lot of enthusiasm. But after a short while, losing interest, breaking promises, not following through with commitments, sometimes not even turning up as they find something else to focus on. Next, they can be very charming. They can be very charismatic, have a captivating sense of magnetism about them, even be flirtatious with others, but in some cases not necessarily realize that they're being flirtatious and may feel very wounded and attacked if, say, a partner were to point that out. But having said that, even with the being flirtatious, A lot of relationships with someone with impulsive borderline may involve them entertaining others, one way or another wanting to be the focus of their will, but generally the relationships tend to be superficial. They avoid meaningful interactions and connections of any real depth. Now, I think that's because in a lot of the relationships, it's more like they're playing a role. It's something they do, that they play the role of partner, friend, rather than actually being part of something. But again, can become quite bored in that role very quickly. But even in those roles, they can be very dramatic. There can be exaggerated gestures, huge acts of romance, huge acts of care, support, giving far too much detail when explaining things, but feeling overly angry, overly crushed when challenged or rejected somehow. Next, people with impulsive borderline can be quite mercurial now, meaning they can be both eloquent and ingenious. That, combined with rapid, unpredictable moods, opinions, behaviours, means they can also sometimes be very elusive. They tend to think on their feet a lot, creating scenarios, finding clever ways to blame something or someone else on the consequences of their actions. Now, this can often lead to very strained relationships with others, be it with partners, with friends, or even at work. And lastly, it's not uncommon for people with impulsive borderline to complain about recurring or chronic illnesses or physical injuries or a disability of some kind, or even past traumas. And I'm not going to suggest for 1 second that these things aren't real. They may well be, but there are times when these can be exaggerated or created even. Remember the overly dramatic behavior, the attention-seeking behavior, the elusiveness and the manipulation. Again, sometimes these conditions that they're complaining about, they're roles that they're playing. And where there are genuine conditions, genuine illnesses, genuine traumas and so on, it can be difficult to discern where that ends and the impulsive borderline begins. And because it can also be comorbid with something else, another personality disorder of some kind, or an addiction or whatever, again, that can make it very difficult to discern where one ends and the other begins, and it can make it difficult to diagnose. So that's a brief outline of impulsive borderline personality disorder. Now, as always, there may be examples I've forgotten. There's something you'd like to add or ask. Please use the comment box below. I am interested in some of the interesting conversations that are starting around these videos. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.